name is Carrie. I am the director of the Spa, Fitness, and Wellness Center here at Williams Island, right in Miami, Florida. And every Friday at 12:45, we do some kind of Q&A talk for wellness. It's a variety of topics. Today, I am very pleased to have Kris Morwood with us, all the way from Colorado. Technology is absolutely wonderful. This is a three-part series. Today is going to be an overview of cannabis, medical marijuana in the country, as well as within the state of Florida, and all of the different, the government regulations, the parent to child. Kris is a great educator with children. She's written a couple of books that she'll introduce. And then we have two more. Next Friday, we're going to talk about vaping, very important topic. And also on the following Friday, the third Friday, we're going to talk about what happens when you walk into a cannabis store. What are you looking for? What kind of quality? You can buy CBD, you can buy, any of these products in a multitude of places. Do you want to buy them at your gas station, or do you want to go into a store? What do you look for to make sure that you're getting the quality that you need, etc.? Huge topic, and we're going to cover it in 15 minutes, right, Kris? Right. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your books and what your mission is.
So as Carrie said, my name is Kris Morwood. I'm located here in Colorado, and we were the first state to go legal as far as adult use or recreational. The state of Florida is medical only at this point, but generally as it goes, states go medical first and then they vote in recreational. Unfortunately, it didn't get on the ballot in Florida this year, so it'll have to wait until 2022. So I have been in the cannabis space since 2013 here in Colorado. I've worked in standards development, this is an interesting industry. It's the only industry out there that does not have national or international standards. Been working on that for a long time. And hopefully this year in 2021, some ISO standards will come out through FOCUS, which is the Foundation of Cannabis Unified Standards. Then I I've done disease specific in nonprofit for about 30 years. And when I realized cannabis has so many medicinal properties, it's quite a versatile plant. And so people really need to understand, as states legalize across the nation, that this is a plant, just like a tomato plant, just like anything else, but it's also a medication. And so I am not a doctor, I am not a nurse. I am simply here to give you information. It should not be construed as medical advice. You should always talk to your medical professional and or your family members as well, because we all have to be responsible for what we're putting in us, on us, and around us. And we need to do research. I have tons of research. If you'd like me to send it to you, Carrie, I'm happy to send that out. There have been studies done from all the way from Johns Hopkins to Harvard universities. The best thing that I can tell you about cannabis is that no one has ever died from this plant, because we have an endocannabinoid system in our body. It's the 13th system. So it's like a lock and key system. So whereas we don't have receptors for alcohol, we don't have receptors for prescription drugs, but we do have an endocannabinoid system. All mammals do. So starting at birth, we feed our babies endocannabinoids when we're breastfeeding. Animals used to consume extreme amounts of cannabinoids through hemp, because hemp, marijuana, cannabis, weed, Mary Jane, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, is from the plant, the Cannabis plant family, and it is Cannabis Sativa. So there are two kinds of cannabis in the marijuana, medical marijuana, that you would have available in Florida. You would have sativa, which is more of a euphoric kind of body tingly feeling, possibly making you feel a little more creative, listening to more music, whereas indica is a much more sedative type of experience. And we need to also talk about the difference between CBD and THC. Those are only two of the cannabinoids. There are 140 cannabinoids that we have discovered so far, but the cannabinoids that we're talking about, because you're going to hear a lot of things when you go to a dispensary, and the medical dispensaries in your area deliver. Unfortunately, in the state of Colorado, we still do not have delivery. So you have the right as a medical patient to ask for the certificate of origin for where this plant has been grown and how it's been grown. Because if you're growing in indoor cultivation, which is generally how it's grown because of weather variables, because of pests and things like that, this plant is a plant that remediates the soil. So anything that it's grown in, this is why it's very important, CBD products that, as Carrie said, please don't buy them at a gas station. Please don't buy them at the corner, store, because you don't know what's in it. And unfortunately, a lot of the tainted products, because this plant does pull up heavy metals, pesticides, any type of chemical that's grown in that. So when you're ingesting it or consuming it, it's going to go into your body. So let's kind of get back to the medical process. So in the state of Florida, you would go to a doctor, and please note that your doctors probably have not been taught the endocannabinoid system, because they only teach it in about 14% of medical schools. So you can hand them studies, you can email them some information, say, the next time I come in, I'd like to discuss medical cannabis with you. Because if you are on any prescription medication, it's important that you know the reactions that are going to happen with whatever you're currently taking. So that is something that you should definitely discuss with your doctor. There's also a lot of wonderful things that cannabis can do. Right now, we have to really reduce the stigma, because there has been an anti-cannabis campaign since 1937, since the Marijuana Tax Act. And it's been something that we need to really revamp how we think about this plant. We need to prioritize people's mental health over the criminalization of this plant. This plant was abundant in World War I, World War II, in the form of hemp, because hemp is such a useful product. It can be made into ropes and sails and bedding and clothing and animal bedding and feed. And now we need to talk about the difference between hemp, agricultural hemp, and medical cannabis.
So before we do make that segue, when you go to a medical doctor and you go through the process of getting your medical card, are they going to tell you, okay, you need this kind of,
No.
marijuana?
No, they're not allowed by law to give you recommendations, but they should be able to tell you how medical cannabis will react with your prescription medications. And that is something that's important. There is also a great service out there. It's called Leaf 411. It is staffed by nurses, and it is a hotline that you may call and ask these nurses questions, and they can give you answers about the different interactions with your medications that you may be taking. So this is some factual information, unfortunately, that a lot of them may not have. And so it's going to take a while before the medical community catches up with it, because nurses and doctors are at risk of losing their license, because cannabis is still, despite its legalized status state by state, county by county, it is still federally illegal. So from a national perspective, it is still federally illegal despite the medical and the adult use programs.
Right. So I know previously we had discussed, if you're someone in a drug-free workplace and you're in the state of Florida, for sure, when I hire employees here, I am very upfront with them saying, if you have a medical marijuana card and you're using that for medicinal purposes, you will not pass the drug test. And then therefore you will not be employed. You know, it's a real catch 22.
Well, you also have to understand, and that's where we're going into what the difference between CBD and THC is,
Right.
that when you're consuming CBD, CBD has all cannabis plants, whether it's hemp, CBD, THC, Delta 8, there's a lot of compounds, terpenes, all these things that you'll learn as you go along if you do the research. But basically, it is 0.3% is the THC level that is allowed for agricultural hemp. Well, you could still test positive despite being not taking the cannabis product that has a higher level of THC. But if you're taking it on a daily basis in enough dosage, you will test positive. So again, as you said, it can affect drug screenings, it can affect jobs, it can affect housing, it can affect all those things. So we all need to be aware that CBD does contain a certain level, 0.3% of THC. So while you're taking these different products, you can call this hotline, you can discuss this with your doctor, discuss it with your family. There are numerous ways that you can consume this. It has to be, cannabis has to be decarboxylated in order to release the THC, which means it needs to be lit on fire or heated to a certain degree. This is why you can find it in edible products, because it's been decarboxylated through heat methods or possibly, some other extraction process. You can use it on topicals where you can put it on the top of your skin. You can have suppositories. You can have tinctures. You can have transdermal patches. There are salves. There are creams. But again, if you're putting anything on you or around you, you really want to know the origin of those products.
Right.
So CBD is legal to ship across state lines, whereas something with THC is not legal. So you can order CBD online, but again, unless you know the manufacturer, you're not going to know what's in that product because of the plant's ability to remediate the soil.
Right. So because it's an agricultural product, just like our food, right? The cleaner you eat and the more aware you are of where you're getting your food, how or organic or grass fed or all of the million different things that you watch for, it's going to be the same thing with your CBD or THC products that you have. Okay, so we're right at the end of our time because this topic goes super quick. Before we go, Kris, can you just show your books?
Sure.
Do you have them with you?
I do.
These books are adorable, and it's the beginning education process for parents and kids to kind of, I cut you off earlier about the stigma, but like just teaching your kids that it's not all bad, right? There's a lot of good to come out of hemp products, CBD, etc.
Absolutely, but also we need to be responsible parents. So if we're bringing in a product into our homes and it looks like a gummy or it looks like a candy bar or it looks like a cookie, we need to be responsible if that product has THC or CBD or anything else in it. Cannabis is an entrance to a better quality of life. It is an exit from pharmaceuticals, from narcotics, from alcohol, from nicotine, from sugar, from caffeine, all these things. This is a quote from Dr. Uma. And so Cali Cannabis is what we came out with in 2014, right after our legalization here in Colorado. It just basically says where to keep it. And we need to start talking about the conversation with our children, with our families, with our grandparents, with our neighbor who has glaucoma. Then in 2018, when the Farm Bill passed, we came out with Hana Hemp. This talks just about the differences between cannabis and hemp. And it breaks it down as simply as, this is a dog and there's a dog family. And then this is a cannabis family. This is the cannabis plant. It can be hemp, it can be marijuana, it can be hops, it can be hackberries. So it's a plant. And then the
Right.
last one, and I co-wrote these with my co-writer Juliet Benz. This one I co-wrote with Kenyon Lovato. Here in Colorado, children were not able to access medical cannabis at their schools, so they had to choose between education and or taking their medication. And so what we need to really remember is that people utilize this for medication. This is something that we really need to look at as a society and teach people the truth, because we're moving towards more understanding of our endocannabinoid system. But please be aware of where it's coming from. We want to make sure you have a positive patient outcome. We want to not have any harm done to you. Know that if you take too much THC, you can always counteract that with CBD and possibly pistachio nuts or vitamin C. But there's all kinds of information. And
Fantastic.
happy to talk to you guys about it. And we'll talk about vaping next week. So
Yeah,
thanks.
we'll talk about vaping next week. Send those resources to myself. Anyone watching, they can reach out to Kris or myself for the resources that Kris mentioned. And then we'll see you next week, 12:45 Friday for the vaping. And then the following Friday, 12:45, we'll see you for the entering a store and what to do at that point, what to look for. Kris, thank you very much. Have a super day. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.